Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to my suggested changes to the starter decks. I was going to do this after the 20 life patch, but as it turns out, ivko said they're changing the starters with the 20 life patch, so I'm making it now. One of my teammates, the Thurs, already made a long forum post about this, so I'm making a video. But anyway, so why is this whole starter deck thing a big point of contention right now? Mostly two reasons. One, they're designed for 25. They're designed for 20 life, not 25 life, and two, they're all terrible. Okay, one or two of them are possible, but they're pretty much all bad. Now, starter decks, when designing starter decks, they really have to fulfill three things. First of all, they have to have a certain amount of rares in them, a certain amount of uncommons, etc. But they also have another sort of side to them, which is they have to be used as learning tools. So they have to teach you about a mechanic or a style of play and sort of show you how to play the game and how to improve at your game. And then the other thing they're supposed to do is they're supposed to be able to win games, and you're supposed to be able to build them up into tier 2-ish decks once you get all the cards necessary. So that's sort of the three things they have to adhere to. They have to be good learning tools, they have to be viable in terms of a base for building a proper deck, and they have to fulfill a parameter of what kind of rares and things are in them. So these are kind of like budget decks, but they're more budget than budget decks. They're sort of budget decks with a couple not optimal numbers of cards, even considering the budget, because they have to have a certain amount of rares and things like that, because they're not just budget decks, they're supposed to provide you with a few base rares and things like that. So I've done one for each and every basic hero, as because of the way this deck builder works, I actually have to go and find the blue starter. Aha! Yeah, the deck builder doesn't really like saving things in the right order, so I could either delete all of my decks, which I'm not particularly fond of, or I could just go looking for them. So anyway, I'll put screenshots to all of these in the description, I think, so I'll just put this, I'll put two different screenshots put together in some cases, things like that. I'll put the screenshots, though, in the description so you can follow along. So, for the blue one, the mechanic that they have as a theme is energy manipulation. And the deck they can build into is tempo wisdom. So, what I've done is, the restrictions I've got are 22 shrines, 3 rares, 11 uncommons, and the rest are commons. So the 3 rares in this particular one are Dust Titan, Lamp, and I also added Unstable Reactor because I think that's really cool with some of the energy manipulation, and also kind of teaches you a bit about the negative sides of some of your own cards if played incorrectly. Whereas Lamp and Dust Titan were just in the original one, so it makes sense. Now, as far as the uncommons go, I've got the Force Wielders, 3 of, 3 Foundries, 2 Engineers. This was kind of annoying to me that the artifact removal was left out of the starter decks originally. So I've got 2 Unicorns in the green one and 2 Power Engineers in the blue one. Now, besides that, 2 Library Guards. I was thinking about 3, but I think 3 might actually be too good for a starter deck. I mean, you could obviously move some numbers around, this is just supposed to be a vague guideline, but I think I prefer to focus on the Foundry Engineer's Force Wielder thing as opposed to Library Guards, which is actually just an amazing card. And so that's pretty much it as far as the uncommons goes. 11 uncommons, so actually also Thaumic Laboratory. So there's 11 uncommons, we've got 6 there, 10 including those, and then the Thaumic Laboratory, just fitting with the energy theme. And then the commons kind of fit this. You got Charged Aurites, Sleep, Spirits. Golem is just a nice basic wisdom card, vanilla creature. Same goes with Flash Freeze being a vanilla spell, more or less. Protector, I think having only 2 protectors is a bit stingy, especially considering they're commons. So I'd rather just put 3 in, because Protector is such a universal card, and it's only a common, so you may as well give them 3 in the starter deck. And because of that, now that there's 3 Protectors, 3 Foundry Engineers, it works better with Astral Dive. The last common I put in here was 3 Spectral Aurites, which are 3/3s now, which makes them much better for a starting card. It's not constructed worthy, but it's close, and if it's close, then it fits in a starter deck, basically, because it's one of those cards that gets substituted later, but isn't bad. So it also works with some of the energy manipulation to make it a bit better. Again, learning tool. I'm going to be moving through these fairly fast, otherwise this video will be hilariously long. Alright, on to Order. Now, Order is partly soldier themed. It's an aggro deck. And the deck this builds into is Soldiers, which is a tier 2 deck with various different color combos. So, as far as rares go, I put in the Cavalry Field Captain, because I think that's really nice to have in here. It's not actually in the original starter deck. The original starter decks only have 2 rares, which I think is a bit... I don't know. I think 3 rares is fine for a starter deck, because starter decks are... I don't know, you want to encourage people to be buying them at the beginning of the game. So yeah, Cavalry Field Captain, Knight Recruiter, because it works with soldiers, and Guardian of the Faithful. Now, when I had this as 2 rares, I actually cut the Guardian and put in a second Protector. I feel like 2 Angels in the Order deck is pretty much where you want to be, starter-wise, but I think that adding the Guardian is nice, so you have 1 of each. Now, besides that, if we move on to the uncommons, yeah, we've got Protector, as I said, 2 Tacticians. Generally, the rule with uncommons is you only have 2 of the powerful uncommons, and you put in 3 of the less sort of big uncommons that just do big sweeping things, like Foundry Engineers. Basically, it's just the dorky guy, and if you get it set up, it's cool. So that's the trend I've gone with. All the 3 in uncommons are less sort of big sweeping cards. That's why I had Foundry Engineers as the 3 in the blue starter deck and not Library Guards. Now, but then with Spectral Lorite, that's a common. So the Dwarf Musketeer I put as 3 because I think that's just kind of something that's very useful. I mean, having 2 Master Tacticians to start with is cool, but Musketeer gets played in a lot of other stuff that aren't mono order. So I think having Musketeer in there as a 3 was a nice addition. Now, besides that, we have the 2 Instills. This is also in the starter deck, because it works with a lot of the stuff, and you also have Cavalry Field Captain now. 2 Ray of Righteousness, just general removal, and then the Soldier's Memorial as the 1 because I really like those 1 like, some of the starter decks have this 1 uncommon land that actually works, and I really like that when it comes to building starter decks, because you have that 11 uncommon thing, which is a bit awkward if you don't. Now, for commons, 2 Touch of Light, 4 Steel Host, 4 Militia. I think this is cool. Militia's not that good of a card, but with the hero power being 1 mana now, it's actually pretty cool on turn 1. So I thought, you know what, let's go for a Militia theme here. So I put in 4 Militia and 4 Guards, which I also felt is something that should be included since it's now one of Order's premium commons, so you may as well include it in their starter deck. That's something I did with all the starter decks. I included the premium commons for that style of play. So you got Guards, Pacify was a 4 in the actual starter deck as well. Again, premium commons, and then you got your Sunblessed Priest that's played in a lot of stuff. So, and also Heavy Infantry, that's just a filler, because you need something else, just to fill in the gaps a little bit. A lot of 2-drops in Order when you have to go for this many commons, but yeah, Heavy Infantry is a bit of a filler, but the rest of them are quite useful. Alright, so moving on to green. Now, the Nature starter deck didn't require much tweaking. Basically, rares, Niana, Fae of Charm, Ancient Treant. These are all fairly obvious with basic Neva. They're really cool to have, and it lets you try out some different styles of play. Uncommons is where the most tweaking happened. 2 Sunchaser Orites, 2 Haldiri Riders. I think that it's kind of necessary to include 2 Haldiri Riders if you want to promote a Nature starter deck that can actually win some games. 2 Landslide, 2 Elf Commander, the Elven Sanctuary, and 2 Unicorn. Again, I don't know why this isn't in the original starter deck. I think Unicorn over Test of Time is just like, you have the uncommon slots anyway. You may as well just provide them with the actually useful card. And then the 2 Grove Guardians. Again, the starter deck had these, and I think it's a cool thing to promote the 1-drops a bit by having Grove Guardian as one of the uncommons to have a look at. Now, for commons, not much really changed. Elf Scout, Elf Warrior, Fairy, Skyrider, Ambush Strike. I put in some more Sharpshooters, because again, I think providing each color's starter deck with their premium common is really important. So like Guards, I put in 4 Gibbo and Ronnie, things like that. 4 Sharpshooter, 4-elf warrior, just stuff you're going to need in every single deck in that color. I feel like commons you need in every deck that plays that color should be included in the starter deck. So I've also got Tornado Outbreak in here. So that's the green one that I just went through. Basically, it's just elves. Not that many tweaks. I think this is only 5 to 10 cards different from the actual starter deck, whereas a lot of the other ones are, especially the red one, which we'll get to, is like 30 card different or something ridiculous. So if we get onto the red one here, rares wise, I've included 3 as always. 1 Ramgath, 1 Phoenix, since you want to be promoting different cards that get played in the color in general, and 1 Fiat. Now Phoenix is a extremely powerful card to include in a starter deck. However, the other starter decks have things like Guardian, so I think it's fine. They have things like Guardian, Lamp, such like that. Dust Titan. So yeah, Phoenix is the bigger late game thing. Now for the uncommons, this was actually quite tricky with red. So 2 Lizard. I was thinking of including the 3 Lizard, but instead I included the 3 Gigantodon, because then it promotes this sort of like curve play. This is actually a constructed curve, or possibly going like this. That's actually a constructed curve, and it promotes. It gives the deck an ability to win against a competitive deck if you play it properly. It also gives you a bit of a base for a more Rage Rush deck as opposed to just Rage. And Gigantodon is one of those cards that actually has seen play in Rage Rush. And if you're playing a slower deck, you can just cut them because you figure out they're not as good as they look at first. So for the other uncommons, Massive Assault, because I think that's cool in these kinds of aggressive decks. The Firebrand Goblin, since there's so many goblins and it gives you a bit of an insight into some synergy. Disciple of Ash, because, and I included 3 of these Disciple of Ashes because they're included as a 3-of in a lot of different red decks, so it's just a useful card to have. And 2 Dragonfires, so there's only 3 5 damage sort of burst in this deck, whereas normally you'd play 6, but the point is you don't want to make these constructed like finished, but you can upgrade this to a tier 2 deck, which is Rage Rush. And with Neva, I didn't mention that because Elves is just not good, but the point is you can upgrade the hero to Advanced Neva, and then you get like a tier 2 deck even without a lot of the other random stuff. Something just quickly about the Nature deck I forgot to mention was I was thinking of including Word of Vigor, but instead I included the more universally played green rares. On to Basic Despina Dominion. Now this one is tricky because Basic Despina does nothing for this deck, and this has always been an issue with the starter deck for Dominion. It just never did anything that worked with the hero power. So I went for an implant theme, and this upgrades to, well, fully fledged implants with Elreich, which is a tier 2 deck, so that works. But as far as the rares go, I had a bit of fun with this one. So Helm of Dominion, Temptress of Deceit, these both see play to varying degrees, but Temptress is really cool with implants. And the Gnome Surgeon. Now this is something which you have to like. Gnome Surgeon is not a fantastic card, but the point is that they don't have to be amazing cards. They just have to teach you how to play the game and learn why things are good and why things aren't good, etc. And Gnome Surgeon works with implants, and the theme of the deck is implants, so I thought it was the perfect time to include this guy. One of my favorite cards, by the way. Not to play with, but design-wise, I think it's really cool. So that's the rares. Now for the uncommons, I included 2 Mind Extort. Again, useful card you're going to need. 2 Power Seeker to work with the hero power. 3 Swiftblade Assassin, because it's mono Dominion, so those are going to be handy. 2 Power Spike Armor to work with the whole implant theme, although you could adjust this a bit and include 4 Grapple Hook, and then probably, I don't know, 1 more of one of the other uncommons. Maybe a Stronghold Metropolis or something. Then Bloodseeking Mutant. The new Bloodseeking Mutant is a really cool card to give Dominion players access to immediately. Now some of you may notice I cut the Cataclysm. Cataclysm in the starter deck was bad for 2 reasons. 1, it didn't work with the deck itself, and 2, it's kind of a slap in the face to get Cataclysmed from an implant deck, because it makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense, and and there is sound in the background, I can't do anything about that, but from a new player's perspective, it was always kind of strange how you're just playing against this aggressively themed, like, implants deck, and then you get Cataclysm. It was just very random, so I cut it from the deck. Now, in terms of the commons, I included the whole gross experiment thing, since that was the, basically is the mono theme when it comes to Dominion. So I've got my my implants here. This is 9 implants with the gross experiment. Some assassins, 3 assassin, 3 assassinate. Again, just useful numbers of cards to have. 4 spoil the aristocrat, works with the theme of the deck. And 3 thunderstorm titans, again, works with the theme of the deck. And it's a mono Dominion deck, so Titan is actually quite a useful card to have. Some of the stuff is just filler, but that's the thing about starter decks, is they're not designed to be competitive, they're designed to be able to win games. Now, onto the last one, which is Nefaros Corruption. Now, Corruption was traditionally one of the stronger starter decks. The 3 rares I have for this deck are Flesh Sculptor, as a one-off, Dread Knight, to give the deck a little bit more hitting power late game, and Restless Tombs, because I think that's a really cool legendary to have in the deck. As far as uncommons, 1 Infernal, so you don't draw too many of them, but it's a nice card to have in the deck. It's quite powerful later on in the game. 1 Haunted Cemetery, again, I like those uncommon utility lands that you can put in these starter decks. It makes it a lot smoother. Then you've got the 2 Undead Necromancers, it's just useful. 2 Vultures for the late game, gives you a bit of interaction with the graveyard and such. 2 Consumed Spirits, that powerful removal spell Corruption has access to, again gives you some play with some of the themes of the game, like your Corruption level. And then lastly, I think that's lastly in terms of uncommons, yeah, Insatiable Ghoul. Now, I included 3 Insatiable Ghoul, and the reason for it is because I think Insatiable Ghoul is the all-star of zombie decks. 3/4, you're playing hyper-aggressive, so you get your 3/4 Insatiable Ghoul, and it gives you the opportunity to win games. With this big 3-drop. So I included 3 of them since I think they're fairly important. Now, as far as the commons goes, pretty standard ones. Legionnaire, Fumes, Vermin, Infected Survivor, Running Remains, just going as low to the ground as possible since they're all commons. 4 Mesmerizing Spirit, it's a common, and it's one of those cards that sees play in pretty much every Corruption deck. And 3 Zombie Giant to work with the theme of the deck. So that's my rundown of the sort of suggested starter decks that I would have with the 20 life patch. They're not perfect, but they're not supposed to be. Starter decks are just supposed to provide a base that you can actually use. The problem with the current starter decks is that they provide a base that you can't use. So that's sort of what we're trying to fix with these kinds of revisions. But anyway, thank you all for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, put it in the comment section below. If you want to see the decks, I'll include screenshots in a massive album, probably on Imager, in the description, so have a look down there. But as now, it's been Jotto, signing off.